It was the last day of school at Pine Creek High, and a sense of liberation was in the air. Students chattered excitedly about summer plans, while teachers smiled with relief, knowing they were on the cusp of a well-deserved break. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a group of 5 friends, Jake, Emily, Sarah, Michael, and Laura, decided to explore an old, abandoned part of the school that had been closed off for years. The area was said to be haunted, with rumors of strange occurrences and ghostly sightings. Curiosity got the better of them, and they figured it was their last chance to investigate before they graduated and went their separate ways. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school year, they made their way to the locked door that led to the forbidden wing. Jake, the most daring of the group, managed to pick the lock with surprising ease. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit corridor covered in dust and cobwebs. The air was musty, and the silence was eerie, broken only by the faint sound of their footsteps echoing off the walls. "Are we really doing this?" Emily whispered, her voice trembling. "Come on, it's just for fun." "Nothing's gonna happen," Jake reassured her, though he felt a shiver run down his spine. They ventured deeper into the abandoned wing, passing by classrooms frozen in time. Desks were still arranged in neat rows, chalkboards covered in faded lessons, and old textbooks scattered about. It was as if the place had been abandoned in a hurry, left to decay over the years. As they turned a corner, they came across a room that seemed different from the others. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint light flickered inside. Michael pushed the door open, and they stepped into what appeared to be an old science lab. Broken beakers and dusty equipment littered the countertops, but what caught their attention was a large, cracked mirror on the far wall. "What's with the mirror?" Sarah asked, walking closer to inspect it. "Who cares? It's creepy as hell," Laura muttered, feeling an overwhelming urge to leave. Ignoring her, Jake approached the mirror. As he stood before it, his reflection seemed distorted, almost sinister. He felt a sudden chill and backed away, but it was too late. The mirror's surface rippled like water, and a shadowy figure emerged from within. The friends screamed in unison as the figure stepped out of the mirror, its eyes glowing with malevolence. It was a tall, gaunt figure dressed in tattered clothing, its face obscured by darkness. "You should not have come here," it hissed, its voice echoing unnaturally. Panic set in, and they turned to flee, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Trapped, they huddled together, desperately trying to come up with a plan. The figure advanced slowly, its presence filling the room with an overwhelming sense of dread. "There's gotta be another way out," Michael shouted, frantically searching the room. Laura spotted a small, high window at the back of the lab. "There. We can climb out." One by one, they scrambled to the window, but as Jake was about to climb through, the figure reached out and grabbed his ankle. He cried out in terror, kicking desperately to free himself. Emily and Michael pulled him with all their strength, and with a final, forceful tug, he broke free. They tumbled out of the window and onto the grass outside, gasping for breath. The school's normalcy seemed almost surreal after their terrifying ordeal. They didn't look back as they ran as fast as they could, not stopping until they were far from the abandoned wing. As they caught their breath, they realized something was different. Jake looked down and saw a dark, handprint-shaped bruise on his ankle where the figure had grabbed him. It pulsed with a strange, eerie light. "We need to tell someone," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "This isn't over." The friends nodded, knowing they had to warn others about the evil lurking in the school's abandoned wing. Their carefree last day of school had turned into a nightmare they would never forget, a lesson in the dangers of curiosity and the importance of respecting the unknown. And so, Pine Creek High closed its doors for the summer, but the shadow of that day lingered. The abandoned wing remained sealed, but whispers of its dark secret spread among the students, a chilling reminder that some doors are better left unopened. It was the last day of school, a day typically filled with laughter, signatures on yearbooks, and plans for the summer ahead. However, for Emily, it was a day she had dreaded all year. The school, an old building with creaking wooden floors and echoing hallways, had a dark secret that most students dismissed as a mere legend. The legend spoke of a student named Sarah who had disappeared 50 years ago on the last day of school. Sarah was known to be quiet, often bullied, and overlooked. One afternoon, she vanished, leaving behind only her notebook. Some said she ran away, others whispered of a darker fate. But the notebook contained eerie sketches of the school's clock tower and cryptic messages about time and isolation. Emily, a history enthusiast and a bit of a loner herself, had spent months researching Sarah's disappearance. She found old newspaper clippings, talked to the few remaining teachers who had been around at the time, and even managed to get her hands on Sarah's old notebook. There was something about the drawings that seemed to call to her, as if Sarah was trying to communicate through the pages. On this last day, Emily decided to stay after school to explore the old clock tower mentioned in Sarah's notebook. It was a part of the school that had been closed off for years, deemed unsafe. With a small flashlight and a heart pounding with both fear and excitement, Emily made her way to the tower. The hallways were empty, the usual buzz of students replaced by an eerie silence. She reached the old wooden door that led to the tower's staircase. It was locked, but she had anticipated this and brought along a hairpin. After a few nervous moments, the lock clicked open, and she pushed the door with a creak that echoed through the deserted halls. The staircase spiraled upwards, dust and cobwebs thickening as she climbed. Each step felt heavier, the air colder. Finally, she reached the top, a small room with the massive, dormant clock mechanism. The room was cluttered with old furniture and boxes filled with forgotten documents and trinkets. As she moved her flashlight around, the beam landed on a dusty mirror in the corner. For a brief moment, she saw a reflection not of herself but of a girl in an old-fashioned school uniform, Sarah. Emily blinked, and the reflection was gone. Her hands trembled, but she pressed on, searching through the boxes. Then she found it, Sarah's name etched into the wooden floor, right where the moonlight from the narrow window fell. Next to the name was a small, ornate box. Emily opened it to find a pocket watch, its hands frozen at 3:15, the exact time Sarah had disappeared according to the old records. Suddenly, the clock mechanism groaned to life. The hands of the tower clock began to move, and Emily felt a strange pull, as if time itself was shifting. The room darkened, and a cold wind swirled around her. Emily turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. Panic set in as she banged on the door, shouting for help. The mirror in the corner began to glow, and Emily saw Sarah's face again. This time, Sarah spoke, her voice a whisper carried by the wind. "Help me," she pleaded. Emily realized that Sarah was trapped, caught in a time loop, and the only way to free her was to fix the pocket watch. With shaking hands, Emily worked to reset the watch. Each tick of the hand seemed to echo through the tower, blending with the groaning of the clock mechanism. When the watch finally struck 3:16, a blinding light filled the room. Emily shielded her eyes, feeling a rush of air as if something had been lifted. The light faded, and Emily found herself back in the now silent room, the clock once again dormant. The door creaked open, and she stumbled out, clutching the pocket watch. The halls were empty, but the air felt lighter, the oppressive atmosphere gone. As she left the school, Emily felt a sense of accomplishment and relief. She had not only uncovered the truth but had also freed a tormented soul. The legend of Sarah would live on, but now it would be a story of redemption and courage. And every year, on the last day of school, Emily would look up at the old clock tower, knowing that sometimes, even the darkest legends could have a hopeful ending. On the last day of school, excitement buzzed through the halls of Ridgewood High. Summer break was within reach, and students hurriedly emptied their lockers, chattering about their plans. Among them was Alex, a quiet and diligent student who found solace in books rather than socializing. Alex was looking forward to a summer of reading and relaxation. As the final bell rang, Alex lingered in the library, savoring the peaceful silence. Mrs. Thompson, the elderly librarian, smiled warmly at him. "Last one here, as usual, Alex." Alex returned the smile. "I just wanted to finish this chapter." Mrs. Thompson nodded. "Well, don't stay too long. The janitor will lock up soon." Alex assured her he wouldn't be long and returned to his book. As the minutes ticked by, he became engrossed in the story. The world outside the library faded away until a sudden noise jolted him back to reality. It was a faint, rhythmic tapping, like someone drumming their fingers on a desk. Curious, Alex glanced around. The library was empty. He shook his head, dismissing it as the building settling. He returned to his book, but the tapping grew louder, more insistent. This time, it sounded like it was coming from the back of the library, near the restricted section. Despite the eerie feeling creeping up his spine, Alex's curiosity got the better of him. He walked towards the restricted section, a small area of the library that housed old and rare books. The tapping stopped abruptly as he approached the velvet rope that cordoned off the area. He hesitated, then stepped over the rope. The air felt colder here, and the dust motes danced in the dim light. As Alex scanned the shelves, something caught his eye, a book that didn't belong. It was newer, its spine unmarked. He pulled it off the shelf and opened it. To his shock, the pages were blank. Just as he was about to close it, words began to appear on the first page, as if written by an invisible hand. "Read me," it said. Heart pounding, Alex turned the page. More words formed, the secrets of Ridgewood High lie within. Beware the hidden truths. The lights flickered, and the air grew colder. Alex felt an overwhelming sense of dread but couldn't tear his eyes away from the book. He flipped to the next page, which depicted a detailed map of the school, marking a hidden basement that he had never heard of. Determined to uncover the mystery, Alex followed the map. It led him to a janitor's closet in a forgotten corner of the school. The tapping noise returned, louder than ever, guiding him. Inside the closet, he found a trapdoor covered in dust and cobwebs. With a deep breath, Alex lifted the door. The creaking hinges echoed through the empty hallways. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. Using his phone's flashlight, he carefully made his way down. The basement was musty, filled with old furniture and broken equipment. As he explored, he noticed something strange: old yearbooks scattered on a table, their pages filled with the faces of students long forgotten. But what disturbed him most were the final pages of each yearbook, depicting students who had vanished without a trace, their faces crossed out in red ink. Alex's breath quickened. He recognized some of the names as missing persons from town lore. Suddenly, the tapping resumed, echoing through the basement. It led him to a locked metal door at the far end. He found an old key hanging nearby and unlocked the door. Inside, the room was pitch black, except for a single spotlight illuminating a desk. On the desk lay another book, identical to the one he'd found in the library. As he approached, the door slammed shut behind him, plunging the room into darkness. Alex's phone flickered and died. Panic set in as he fumbled for the book, hoping it would provide answers. The pages illuminated faintly, revealing a final message: the truth is a burden. Now you know. Suddenly, whispers filled the air, surrounding him. The faces from the yearbook seemed to materialize in the darkness, their eyes hollow, their expressions mournful. Alex realized the tapping had stopped, because it had never been a tapping at all. It was a warning, a call for help from the lost souls trapped within the school. Desperate to escape, Alex pounded on the door, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers grew louder, more urgent. "Free us," they implored. In a final act of courage, Alex shouted, "How?" The whispers ceased, replaced by a deafening silence. Then, the book's pages flipped rapidly, stopping at the last page, which simply read, "Destroy the source." Understanding dawned on Alex. He grabbed the book and, with all his strength, tore it apart. A blinding light filled the room, and the oppressive darkness lifted. The door creaked open, and Alex stumbled out, gasping for breath. As he emerged from the basement, the school seemed different, lighter. The faces from the yearbooks were no longer crossed out, and the air felt warmer. Alex knew the spirits had been freed, and the curse of Ridgewood High had been broken. The lesson was clear: some secrets are meant to be uncovered, no matter the cost. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is face the darkness and bring light to the hidden truths.